Welcome to our second episode of Behind the Coin, BTC, where we discuss events around cryptocurrency, where we discuss, various topics related to crypto, related to Bitcoin. And I've got today with me my co-host, Faisal Khan. Faisal, how are you doing today?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm great. We've had a very interesting week in crypto. Nonetheless, we're here to talk about it, and we're very happy to have you guys join us today. Now, the first thing, I guess let's just get this off the bat, because I'm sure most of you have heard about the hack, the CoinCheck hack that happened. It just happened today for $550 million. NEM was hacked from CoinExchange, which is a large Japanese exchange. And I'm not sure what the details are yet. I just saw it on the Twitter feed, but this just leads me to let people know to always take your coins off of the exchange.
Off the exchange. You cannot hammer that point enough, Nako.
Yeah. It's and that's something we'll go in depth in a show. We'll actually devote an entire show to security, because when you're in crypto, you are responsible for your wealth. You're responsible for your tokens. It's important that you understand the various tools that we use to ensure that you're guarding your tokens, and you spent your hard-earned money. So it's important that you know how to secure them. And so we'll get into that in another show, because it does require, I think, an entire show to kind of talk about the various tools, the various security tools, and how to exchange tokens and so forth. But because we're just starting this podcast, I think it's really important for us to stress the why before the how. And what do I mean by that? I think it's important that people really dig deep and understand why they're in cryptocurrency, and it not just be about the money. Because if you're in it just for the money, it's going to be really hard to withstand the ups and the downs. And we're just coming off a pretty heavy down. I think we're starting to see it, sort of taper off a little bit. But we, had almost 60% dips from the all-time highs. And I think those of you who didn't have a why for why you're in cryptocurrency, you panicked, and you probably panic sold, and you lost money, and you probably called up whoever told you about Bitcoin or Ethereum and told them off, and just, told them, listen, I lost X amount of money. But if you're in it for more than the money, you're going to hang on. You're going to hang on because it's it's much larger than just, getting a couple bucks. And getting the couple bucks is great, but believe it or not, that's just secondary. Okay. And how do you feel about that, Faisal?
I'm not sure if people really buy into that. As philosophical of an argument that may be, it's just that, right? At the end of the day, I don't see, I agree with you. People will call up their friends and say, hey, buddy, I lost a lot of money in crypto. But I didn't see them making the call when they say, hey, buddy, I made a lot of money in crypto because of you. Thanks, And I agree on the why. Absolutely. I feel a lot of the people have no clue. Yes, I have to be blunt. They are absolutely clueless when they are going and buying coins and are investing, not understanding, not even having a basic understanding of what this coin even does. Even if it is a coin, or is it a utility token, or is it just some hype or some joke, they have no clue. So I absolutely endorse the idea of understanding the why.
I think it's important that we discuss the whys, why we believe in Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and blockchain. I think it's just as important to understand the reason you're in this space, and not just talk about the how to participate in the space. We will definitely get to that, but it's important to understand, why you're buying a certain token, what the team's values are and beliefs are, and if they align with yours. And you're going to need this. We all need it in order to sustain the volatility of the market. If you've just entered the market, you're probably thinking, what in the world is going on? Because we're experiencing 60% dips from the all-time highs that were set just a few months ago. And first of all, I want to tell you, this is normal. This has happened before. We've seen these type of dips before. And those of us who hodl, and that's a whole other story, why we spell it as HODL instead of hold. We say hodl in this space. And we'll put a link in the show notes to the original post in Bitcoin Talk that talks about how this came about, and it's now a meme, and it's something that's a term of endearment in the space. And we love the word hodl because it's a great story. There's a great story behind it. But the reason we hodl has a lot to do with our convictions. And that, I think, is actually even more important than the how to make money. Okay. The money will come. It will come. I believe it will come. But it's so much more gratifying when you're in it for the right reasons. Would you say that's right, Faisal?
Sorry. Yes, I would.
All right. So the dips that we're seeing are very normal. And I think what I also want to share with you guys is my own personal journey into crypto. And the first thing I want you guys to know is I'm a regular person. Okay. I'm not a developer. I'm not a finance person. In fact, I never traded until cryptocurrency. I was your, run of the mill. I shouldn't say run of the mill. Bad word, bad choice of words. But I would call a vanilla investor. Okay. Maybe that's even a worse choice of words, but I was your typical, contributed to my, in the US, you say 401k. We say RRSP in Canada. That's where I am. I'm Canadian. So I contributed to my company, matching plan. Okay. I always did that. And I had mutual funds, and that was it, right? I wasn't somebody who followed the market. It just wasn't my thing. I didn't have an interest in it, to be quite frank. But there was something about crypto that intrigued me. And I was lucky enough, this is where kind of serendipity comes in, is that I'm a headhunter. And so I was a fintech headhunter, and part of fintech is crypto, right? Crypto and blockchain are a part of that space. And I had a client who asked me if I would accept Bitcoin. And the businesswoman that I am, I'm not going to refuse money. So I said yes, as long as I could exchange it for, Canadian dollars or US dollars. And he said, yeah, there's a way to do it. You have to go to an exchange, blah, blah, blah. But it's money, right? And I thought, okay, cool. So yes, I accept it. But then I had to figure out how to accept it. And so this is where my education started. Is like, oh my gosh, now I actually said I accept it. Now I have to figure out how it works and how to accept it. And that was my foray into this space. So it was quite by accident. I started.
What was the first currency you accepted? Was it Bitcoin, or was it some? Had to be Bitcoin, right?
It was Bitcoin. It was Bitcoin. And
what year was this, by the way?
Oh, this was not that long ago. It was 2016.
Oh, just 2 years ago. Wow.
Yeah. So I wasn't one of those early people. Gosh, I wish, but
just yesterday, right?
Yeah, pretty much. But although it feels like 10 years in crypto time, that's a long time ago. But yeah, so it was not too long ago, and I was very intimidated. I'm not a technical person, and at the time, it's gotten a little better.
Which is Narco in many ways what pretty much everyone else is, right? They're not technical. I was intimidated, and I'm mildly technical, right? So it affects all of us. The fear of the unknown is so much over here, and you think, oh my God, what are all these words? What's a transaction hash? What's a hash? What's this? What's that? Yes, it can be very overwhelming, but if you can figure it out, I guess everyone can figure it out.
Exactly. And that's the point of this podcast is like, if I can do it, so can you. Okay. And right now, if you're new to the space, it might be completely overwhelming. And that's how we all feel. It's just, there's so much to learn and there's so much coming at you. And the pace is very fast. It's a very fast moving space. So there are constantly new things to learn. And so if you feel overwhelmed, that's okay. You're normal. Okay. We all feel that way. But one of the biggest hurdles that I don't think people talk about much is the psychological hurdle of responsibility. Crypto is about personal responsibility and financial responsibility. And that's not an easy thing for most people, at least in the sense of you're your own bank. Okay. And what I mean by that is if you lose your keys or if you are hacked or the whole myriad of things that could go wrong, possibly go wrong, there's no 1-800 number to call. There is no, because it's not regulated, right? So you really have to be careful when you're, moving money around, when you're storing your cryptocurrency. You got to be careful. There are a lot of scammers in the space. Unfortunately, it is what it is. And so you've got to really be mindful of the fact that there's some bad actors out there. And so it's one of those things where psychologically you gotta really kind of build up a certain immunity, if you want to call it that, against your fear of, oh my gosh, what if something goes wrong? Is that a possibility? Yes, it is. But there are different things that you can do. And the first thing is really educating yourself. So I can't stress enough that research. So do your research and take your time. I see so many people online who are in a rush because their friend is making so much money. They hear about all these people making money and they feel like they're missing out. And we have a term for that. It's FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. You're not late. It's not too late. It's still very, very early. So take your time. Don't think that you're missing anything because you're not missing out. It's better to be, educated and be really comfortable and feel that you're ready to make the move before you actually make it, and then you lose, all your money or the money that you've invested. That's the last thing you want. Now, the whys. Okay. What's going to get you through the ups and downs? What's going to get you through, trying to understand this very, technical space and you're not technical? It's the why. And what do I mean by that? It means that here's a technology, and I spoke about this in the first show, in the pilot show, that I really felt that this was, a development in our history as a species, that was comparable to something like the Magna Carta and, other industrial revolutions and sort of the Renaissance. Like, I think it's that big. And why do I believe it's that big? It's because the idea of being able to come to a consensus without a central authority is huge. I mean, just think about that for a minute. Here we are as a species who, we have central authorities. And if you were to ask a philosopher or an economist or, any kind of scholar, say 20 years ago, if you were to say to them, is it possible for people globally, all over the world, to reach some form of consensus without a central authority? What do you think the answer would be to that question? It would be a resounding no. I mean, there's no way. And that's not to say that central authorities.
It's also because we believe in the fact that we can't let man loose. There has to be order and to this chaos, and that order implies central authority somewhere right at the top of the chain, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And here's the thing. We at some point in history needed that order. We needed central authority. We needed law and order as we see it today.
But you know why?
Because
Because if you read that book *Sapiens*, man became a storyteller, and in part of being a storyteller, he also became a liar and a cheat.
yeah, good point.
So no, it is true. Do you ever see monkeys sitting around and saying, "Hey, oh my God, this guy's a fraud monkey. Throw him out of the." They don't have these things. We do. We do. 10 people, sapiens will sit, and one of them will make a story. And that story can be false, it could be misleading, it could be conniving, it could be whatever, I don't know. But the fact is, there are bad actors. And that's why we had societal rules, you know? And this is why we had these central figures to protect the remainder of them from the conniving ones, if you will, you know?
Exactly. And thank God we had this and still do to some extent because
But we don't want that anymore now.
yeah. And the thing is, if we didn't have that, we would not be here. And let's be real, right? We would not have made it this far as a species if we didn't have these sort of central bodies that took us through the stages, where we are today to get us up to where we are today. So this new technology is actually another evolution in our species. I mean, that's huge to me. When I think about it, I'm thinking, wow. And I think that, and this is going to sound a little woo-woo, and you guys will learn that about me. Okay. I'm going to throw in some woo-woo stuff every now and then. But I believe that our hardware, okay, and what do I mean by our hardware? I mean our brains, our prefrontal cortex, our anatomy, our physiology has not caught up with our thinking or with our ideas, with our ideals. It's not moving at the same pace. And so we need these extensions of ourselves, okay, so that we can start processing this really super intelligent software, wherever it's coming from, these ideas, these theories, these models of living and working and consensus, right? This new consensus. We need another extension outside of ourselves. And what is this extension? I believe it's the blockchain. So here we have this technology that's going to take us to the next level of humanity, of really being human. I mean, what is it? And I'm glad you brought up the monkeys example. What really sets us apart from animals is our ability to tell stories, right? And our ability to come to consensus and to form tribes. And you'll find this out once you really get into crypto. It's very tribal. So it's a bunch of tribes who are trying to navigate this dimension, this reality that we're in, and I believe that the blockchain is helping us move to that next level of being human, what it means to be human, without a central authority, which is just blows my mind. Like when I think about it, I literally get goosebumps because I think I'm actually living in a time where I'm participating in this next stage of our evolution, which is pretty amazing. So that's one of the whys. There are others. I mean, people have a whole bunch of, various extrapolations that they explain, what the blockchain means to them. And there are many of them out there, online, whether it's in medicine and, people make different comparisons to the blockchain being sort of like the central nervous system. And I mean, there are a ton of theories out there. And whether you're in, dentistry, or you're in, you're a veterinarian, or you're a painter, or a writer, a lawyer, you're going to find that once you start studying this technology, it's going to speak to you based on what you're currently doing. You're going to see in it, okay, this is gonna advance my field in this way. It's yeah. So
But have we come a full circle? We were decentralized before. We got centralized as far as information was. We got centralized as far as banking was. Then information got decentralized, and now banking and value or value transfer will get decentralized. What's your view on that?
yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it. It's we're coming full circle. Yeah, I do believe we're coming full circle, and we're using tribes, right? Because we're a very social species. We're social beings, and although people sort of argue the fact that we're becoming less and less social because of all of this technology, I think it's the opposite. I think what you're seeing is that there are people who normally would not have come together, that are coming together despite geography, right? So they're coming together and they are, have a common purpose. And this technology is able to facilitate that purpose. I think it is a full circle moment.
Here's my take on it. If you go back 300 or 400 years ago, if there was a person sitting in a small town outside Santiago, Chile, versus a person sitting outside Copenhagen, and versus someone sitting outside, Nairobi in Kenya, and they all had an idea to share, there was no way they could share. The common platform, the common denominator was not there. Fast forward a couple of decades and, 100 to 200 years and so forth, and the international, the internet revolution came about, and now they are able to communicate with each other. What we have today is a society that can exchange information on a very elementary terms, meaning we can exchange one byte of information with anyone we choose to do so. Anyone. There is no distinction. The very fact that I can walk into any room in the world, where people have a smartphone or are listening or from from the industry or from or are modern, well, I would say Luddites, but anyways, but the regular modern average Joe Schmo, I can exchange an email with them. I don't even have to talk their same language. If I just draw the @ symbol, they'll understand it. They'll give me their email, and I can send them an email. That is the level that we are at today. We can exchange information down to the most elementary byte. What we cannot do at present is we cannot trade value at the most elementary level across the world. There are extreme restrictions. There are extreme governing bodies. There are extreme liquidity and market players. There are many, many, many payment walls. There are many regulatory walls. There are hurdles. There are capital controls. The ability to exchange money with any other person on the earth is severely limited, and in many cases not possible. You can't take money out of a country that has capital control, so it's very difficult to do so. And the system is so broken and so fragmented. That's one of my talks that I gave, the fragmented world of payments. That this is the problem I feel the blockchain and the crypto world will invariably address. And that will be the ability so that any person on earth, just like you have your god-given right to use internet or telephone or what have you, you will have your human rights would include the ability to trade on the most elementary level of currency, or whether it's fiat or crypto or a combination of both, but the ability to trade with any other person. Which brings me to the one last comment that I want to make. Imagine what happens to a society when we do and we can, send information on an elementary level with every other person. Look what we have today. We have contents by the trillions and petabytes and petabytes and petabytes of data every single day. And if that same analogy is applied and juxtaposed and extrapolated the same way data is to money, imagine what it does to society. And that is the question that I'm so fascinated by. And I feel that's the problem that crypto will solve. Whether they do it by design or it becomes a byproduct, I don't know. But I feel that every person on earth will be able to exchange money with every other person on earth without even thinking twice.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think that's definitely the dream, right? I think that's the dream of many
But it doesn't have
teams.
to be the dream, right? The protocol is already
That's true.
invented. The catalyst moment has started. The genesis moment has long gone by. So we are, the spark has been lit.
That is very true. That is true. Yeah. It's and now it's just a matter of, getting more and more people to understand the power that we have, right? The power really belongs to us, the people. And now's the time.
I mean, I'm known for my analogies. Where are we today? We are in the part where after the Big Bang, the light is born. The hydrogen and helium atoms are fusing together and creating more different types of atoms, and different types of particles, and slowly galaxies are being formed, and clouds are being, gaseous clouds. That's where we are coming in. We are in that phase where planets are going to be born, stars are going to be born, galaxies are going to be born. So many things are going to be born, because yes, it'll take some time. Yes, it'll take some time. I'm very, people chastise me for being skeptical, for being a pessimist. But in this case, I chastise them back and say, listen, give it time. You just cannot expect this physical experiment to happen in a matter of a decade or less. It will take time. And once that time comes, and it's okay. Some people get it, some people don't. Oh, banks will never go out of business. Oh, this will never happen. Oh, that will never happen. That's okay. But the fact is, for the first time, what belongs to me, what is mine, I can park it wherever I want without anyone else telling me that it has no value now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's huge. It really is. You're able to have sovereignty outside of government. I mean, like that's major. That is
You
major.
are your own sovereign nation of value when it comes to Bitcoin or blockchain and altcoins.
Yes. Yes. And again, with that, what's that Spider-Man saying? With huge responsibility comes what's the term? See, I'm gonna butcher it. I can't remember. But there is a responsibility element to all of this. And we are gonna cover that so that, you know, you take advantage of this gift, really. I mean, it's a gift of freedom. It doesn't get freer than this. And so we will go over the various tools that you need to secure your sovereign financial sovereignty, your freedom, really, and it's going to be a lot of fun too. Okay, as heavy as this all sounds, this is a very lighthearted space. This is a fun space. We've got lots of funny memes. We've got lots of funny expressions. And you also want to have a good time. Life is too short at the end of the day to feel so pressured. So, don't look at it as, oh my gosh, another stress in my life. No, we're very lighthearted about things in this space, despite the fact that, your portfolio one day could be up, 120%, 130%, 300%. And then the next, it's down much lower than you thought it would ever go. But just like we said, be in it for the long haul. Because again, this is something that is quite groundbreaking. And we're very fortunate to be living in this time. As cliche as that sounds, I really believe we're really lucky to be, to have a front row seat, and our grandkids are going to be fascinated by the stories we tell them of our involvement right now in this time, during this revolution, because it's quite something. Now, the hows. Okay, the hows are important. And, in this podcast and podcasts to come, we're going to go over the hows. And one of the tools that many of us use is a website called CoinMarketCap. Okay, it's one of the first things I look at every day. And what it does is it lists all of the coins and the tokens on the market, or at least most of them. Some of them are not listed, but I would be weary of a coin that's not listed on CoinMarketCap, because it's really sort of the go-to site that we all go to, and we check out, what's happening in terms of the market, right? It gives you a breakdown of how big the market is, and each token is listed and ranked according to their market cap, their trade volume. It gives you what coins or tokens are trending in terms of the gainers, losers, recently added tokens. There's a tool section, so you can check out the currency converter, and you can convert tokens based on their USD value or their Bitcoin value, or various tokens to tokens. So it's actually no, this one doesn't do token to token. My mistake. This one only does a few of the major currency converters. So if you want to find out how many euros your token is worth or how many USD it's worth, it does that. There are other tools that you can do coin to coin, but this isn't one of them. That's a little bit more advanced, and we can get to that in another show. But really, you want to go to this website, and pretty much you can get a breakdown of what the tokens, what they're doing in terms of their website. There's usually a link to the website. And there's also a blockchain explorer. And this is really important for people to familiarize themselves with. So if you go to this site, on the far left side of the breakdown of the tokens, you're going to see Explorer or Explorer 2. And this is the actual blockchain in real time for each token. And when you go onto this site, you're going to see various things like the transactions that are going through the blockchain in real time. You're going to see various mining pools if they have that listed. You're going to see obviously the price of the token, and you're going to see what they call the rich list. And the rich list is interesting because, and not all coins have this. Some do, some don't. But many of them do. And what they give you is a breakdown of the top 100 wallet owners. So the top 100, whales, if you want to call them whales, or people who own the most of that particular coin. And this is where the transparency bit comes in with the blockchain. So everything is transparent. You can see things happening in real time. It gives you a breakdown of, where the wealth is, pretty much. That's why it's called a rich list. And a lot of the criticisms in the space is that the wealth is not evenly distributed. Okay. And there are lots of papers and articles, particularly about Bitcoin, the wealth is not evenly distributed. It's just a few people who control the wealth and yada, yada, yada. But here's the thing. That's pretty much across the board. Like, that's everywhere, right? And there's a principle for it. It's called the Pareto Principle. And really, Pareto's principle is that 80% of the wealth is usually owned by 20% of the people. And this is not just money. This is just like in everything. So 20% of your activities in your work, whatever you're doing, is going to produce 80% of your revenue. It's in nature. It seems to be a law of some kind that governs our reality, that governs our dimension, or, the way things are here. And I'm not sure why that is, but Bitcoin and crypto is no different. In other words, the difference in crypto is that it's transparent, and this transparency is it can be amusing sometimes because there are incidences where there have been hacks, and when somebody gets their crypto stolen or there's a hacking of some kind, we can actually see it on the blockchain. So just because something is transparent doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good thing. I mean, you can sometimes see your funds getting stolen in real time. You can see the thief taking your funds from your wallet where if it's being hacked. So it just goes to show you that yes, there are a lot of great things about the blockchain in the sense that we can see everything, but that doesn't make the inequities or inequalities, I should say inequality, go away. I think it's equitable because everyone's got access to it. No, there isn't a barrier per se, but the inequalities still exist. It's the world. It's the real world. It's not separate from reality. Went off on a tangent there. I tend to go off on tangents every now and then. You will also see a message board on this breakdown of the coin, and the message boards are a good indicator of, I think, how successful the project will be, because you can actually join the Telegram group, and they'll usually have a link to either their Telegram group or their Discord community and or Slack, and you can get a feel for like how big the community is, how active it is. And if you don't get the link from this message board in coinmarketcap.com, just go to their website and make sure that you join all of the communities. And this again is part of the research, right? You want to start doing the research and the legwork before you buy anything. Okay. Now the source code is the last link in this breakdown, and the source code will usually take you right to the GitHub. And GitHub is a website used by developers to pretty much track and log all of the codes that they're doing for a particular project. And so you'll have, they will have like the contributors, it'll have the commitments, and it'll have the code, the actual source code in the GitHub. And this is a great place to check and see how active each project is. And I tend to use GitHub quite a bit. When I interview developers, I always ask them for their GitHub link and check out exactly, what they've contributed to. And my advice to developers who are trying to get into the crypto space is to go to the GitHubs of their favorite projects and start contributing. Okay, start contributing codes, because you can contribute to all of these projects. It's all open source. So you can start contributing in your own way. And this makes a huge difference because these teams make note of that, right? If you're a contributor, they can see it, and they will take that into consideration when you're applying to work on their project or applying for a job. So the Bitcoin Cash argument is that Satoshi's white paper, and Satoshi Nakamoto, I'm sure all of you have heard, is the developer of Bitcoin. We don't know if it's a he or she, or if it's a committee of people. We don't know the identity of this person. They use the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto, and in the white paper, he talks about a cash system, and but in any case, if you read the white paper, it's obviously not just about creating a cash payment system per se. It's really about the state of our financial system, and the fact that we're pretty much at the mercy of the central banks, and the crisis that happened in 2008 and 2009 really can be prevented in the future if we have a decentralized economy, if we have a decentralized payment network, if we have a decentralized system in which the people are not reliant upon, people who seem to not really know what they're doing and has gotten us into the mess that we were in 2008, 2009. So it was sort of like a call to action to do something about the current economic system. And so he created this protocol, and the Bitcoin Cash, they believe that in order to fulfill Satoshi's dream, we need to act on the problem of the congestion that Bitcoin was facing. And if you've used Bitcoin, it can be a little slow and the fees are quite high. And they believe that in order to solve this problem, that we just needed to expand the blocks. And once we expand the blocks, then, we get rid of this problem and we can, move on to fulfill what the white paper set out to fulfill. And on the other side of that debate is the Bitcoin core. I'm going to call it Bitcoin core group. And some people don't like that term, but that's the term I'm going to use to explain the Bitcoin that you see ranked as number one. That's the most expensive coin right now, right? Versus Bitcoin Cash. So the Bitcoin team pretty much believes that it's very important to keep the layer of Bitcoin. As I explained, it's a protocol first and foremost. They believe that it's really important to keep that as decentralized as possible. And in order to keep it as decentralized as possible, you need to have people who have the ability to run a full node. That's one of the arguments. But people have refuted that and said, well, it's not that expensive. Increasing the block size wouldn't impede anybody from running a full node. But I think the most important thing is that this group of developers that are a part of keeping Bitcoin as running and are responsible for this very, very important technology. It's a lot of pressure on them. They want to make sure that they create something that is completely secure. Okay, so security is the number one issue for them. And they've, I think, done a phenomenal job because, as everybody knows, Bitcoin has not been hacked. Everything that you hear about Bitcoin hacks in the news, that's at the exchange level. It's not at the protocol level. So the protocol has been through, it's been battle tested. God only knows. I can imagine that countries like North Korea and the best hackers in the world have tried to attack the Bitcoin protocol and they failed. So security for them is of utmost importance. And if they were to try to hard fork Bitcoin, which is what a bigger block size would mean, it would be too risky, I think, for them to increase the block size, because if everyone didn't update to the new change, then there would be some people who would be running on like parallel blockchains. I hope that makes sense. So really, I think for them, they put security ahead of everything else, including, the need for lower fees. And personally, I'll let you know that I actually sold my Bitcoin Cash for more Bitcoin because I was willing to pay higher fees, okay, and endure the congestion, which is not fun, but I was willing to make that sacrifice because I understand the importance of this technology, and it wasn't worth risking the fact that some people would be either, negligent or not switch, not make the upgrades. And there would be, this human error of mistakenly having two parallel blockchains running, and it would be a mess. To me, that would be a bigger mess. I think it was the best thing for them to do was to build on top of the current blockchain and have another layer, a second layer. And this second layer technology is Lightning. And they are, I believe that they're slowly now doing, they might be in beta. I'm not sure. I have to double check. In fact, I'll devote a show to Lightning and some of the other second layer protocols on Bitcoin. But really, the most important thing for me was that I see this as a protocol that is much bigger than just the cash element. It's not just about the cash for me or the money for me. Part of it is, yes, of course. And I think it's important that we have a protocol that allows people to transfer value that is censorship resistant, regardless of, what your political affiliation is. And it might be good or bad. But I believe in freedom. Okay. I'm more of a freedom minded person than somebody who, wants somebody to sort of control everyone. I prefer for people to have the freedom to do what they want, without harming other people. Of course, that's the most important thing. And so this is kind of where the community has separated, and some people own both. Okay. So a lot of the old Bitcoin people who've been in Bitcoin for quite some time, some people didn't sell their Bitcoin Cash. They kept it, and that's fine. But I think there's room for both. So I do think that Bitcoin Cash does have a place in our ecosystem. And I think Bitcoin has a place in our ecosystem. I don't think we have to fight one another at all. So that's pretty much the difference. And you're going to see different versions of Bitcoin. As you go down the list, you're going to see Bitcoin Gold. And again, that's because it was a fork. And if you're in the software development world, forking is quite normal. Linux has many, many forks. But for people like myself who are not technical or not from software, the software space, sometimes forking does, make us hesitate and think, what's going on? Why are there so many Bitcoins, and what's the real Bitcoin? So the real Bitcoin is really based on your own beliefs, and the real Bitcoin is what you believe Bitcoin is. I don't think anybody can tell you what the real Bitcoin is. It's kind of up to you to see what the difference is, and perhaps you can just own both and call it a day. So it's important to find and understand your why for buying specific tokens. The why will definitely get you through the crazy swings. And you'll also find meaning in your participation in the space. So,
And it'll take time. It'll take time.
Yes. Yeah, it will take,
It's not like,
overnight.
think of it as learning a new language. That's the way I tell people. It's very easy to get an understanding. Okay, this is where the McDonald's is. This is where the airport is. This is where the hotel is. That's like saying, okay, this is Bitcoin. This is Ethereum. This is Litecoin. But to get an understanding of what they're saying and what they're doing, it's like learning a language. It just takes time. The more you play with it, the more you'll be acclimatized with it.
Exactly. Yes. Great analogy. So we are always happy to hear from our listeners. We're always happy to hear feedback. So feel free to reach out to us and send us any questions that you might have. You can visit us too on our website at www.aroundthecoin.com, and you'll see our show there. And yeah, feel free to send me an email at naco@aroundthecoin.com.
Or you can write to the show, which is btc@aroundthecoin.com, and we will see you next week. Have a good one.
Have a good one.